Downrange Television and OutdoorChannel.com, I'm Michael Bane, coming to you again this week from the studios of Downrange Radio, right here in the secret hidden bunker in the Rocky Mountains. The top of the news this week is that, hey, America agrees with us. A Rasmussen poll released last Friday said that 69% of the Americans surveyed did not believe that a city had the right to prevent its citizens from owning guns. Now, that's the very question that's being addressed at the Supreme Court in McDonald v. Chicago. The survey is consistent with a survey taken in 2008, just before the Heller decision came down, that also said a majority of citizens did not think cities had a right to ban guns. Now, this finding may not be surprising, considering that in past Rasmussen reports, as much as 70% of the people surveyed said that, of course, there was an individual right to own guns in America. We'll all be waiting for the Supreme Court decision in June, but one thing that's for certain, the tide has turned against the anti-gunners. Controversy continues to swirl around the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives seizure of 30 M16-style machine guns at the Port of Tacoma, Washington, a couple of weeks ago. The controversy is that the machine guns seized were not cartridge-firing weapons, but rather airsoft replicas of the M16, designed to fire 6mm plastic pellets. Now, these guns are primarily built of plastic and pot metal, although the brands seized do have more steel parts than most other airsoft guns. According to ATF sources, those guns can be, quote, easily rebuilt, unquote, into full-auto cartridge-firing guns. Airsoft experts disagree and say that should the gun be tinkered together in such a way that it would fire a single cartridge, that could result in an explosion that could damage the shooter. This seizure comes a couple of weeks after the ATF declared that a barrel shroud on an American Tactical Imports GSG-5 .22 caliber long rifle imitation of the H&K MP5SD was in fact not a barrel shroud but a suppressor. Now, a barrel shroud is simply a metal tube that fits over the barrel. The barrel itself of the gun is not drilled with holes. There are no baffles in the tube. In fact, it's a purely cosmetic piece. But 2 weeks ago, the ATF ruled that that cosmetic piece was indeed a sound suppressor. And as such, anyone who possessed them was subject to the laws of the National Firearms Act. Of course, ATI recalled all those guns and are replacing all those barrel shrouds. Regardless of the outcome of these cases, it appears BATFE has stepped up their enforcement. An ATF spokesman also said that the 30 seized machine guns failed to be marked with orange paint on the muzzle, which is a designation of an airsoft gun. In the past, guns that came into the country, airsoft guns that came into the country, not so marked, simply had the tips painted orange by the people getting ready to take possession of the guns. We'll stay on top of this case and let you know how it develops. In competition news this week, Max Michel, who has emerged as one of the most reliable professional shooters on the circuit, has captured his third consecutive title at the Florida Open Pistol Tournament in Frostproof, Florida, where, of course, I think it snowed a couple of weeks ago. That match is held on the grounds of the Universal Shooting Academy, originally created by my good friend Frank Garcia, and has focused on a high round count, international, that is smaller than U.S. standard targets, and optically sighted race guns. Max is sponsored by Sig Sauer and Hornady, and hey, congratulations, Max. Great year. In new products this week, if you've been following the internet, and hey, who hasn't, even if it's only to see the worst dressed people at the Oscars, you've seen some notice that the U.S. military has a new magazine for their M4s, M16 type guns. The new mags have 10 followers, and anti-tilt, actually state-of-the-art followers. You were probably thinking, boy, I'd like to lay my hands on some of those magazines. Well, according to Larry Weeks at Brownells, which is one of 3 military suppliers for the new magazines, it's going to be a while. Larry says that Brownells and the other suppliers signed a contract that the new Brown followers were only for military distribution and will not be moving into the civilian pipeline until the military vaults are all full. Larry notes that the standard for the green followers, the current followers on AR-type magazines, is 0 defects, so you don't necessarily need to change everything over to the Brown followers. In other new product news, Blade Tech, who made their fortune doing Kydex holsters and, in my opinion, make some of the finest Kydex holsters in the world, announced that they're going to be doing a leather belt. The catch is the leather belt is going to be reinforced in areas where the holster rides with Kydex. So you'll have a choice of a brown or a black traditional-looking leather belt, but with heavy plastic, or more correctly, polymer, reinforcement where the holster carries the gun, the point where you need the belt to be the stiffest. Looking forward to seeing those. Finally, if you've ever lusted over a pair of those really great python skin cowboy boots, well, here's your chance. On Monday morning, python season opened in Florida. Pythons are pretty much taking over the Everglades. People buy them as happy household pets, decide a great big snake is not nearly as cuddly as a little fuzzy puppy, and they turn them loose into the wild, where the snakes really like it. So the state of Florida has opened python hunting season, and it also includes Nile monitor lizard if you want to have 2 sets of boots. Season runs until April 17th, and quite frankly, I have no idea how to tell you what you need to hunt pythons. However, Field & Stream did a feature about a year ago on hunting a Nile lizard in some neighbor's backyard in Boca Raton and then grilling it. And you know what? It tasted like chicken. I'm Michael Bane, and as always, anything we mention here on the video, you can find links for on Downrange Television, www.downrange.tv, and OutdoorChannel.com. So that's what you need to know this week. We'll be back again next Wednesday with hopefully more news.